Hello everybody, Manithral here, and welcome to a bit of a strategy video when it comes to the Fresh Start Worlds. I know that it's coming up, that's coming around the corner. It's not too much further off. I mean, it's already the 2nd of September, and the 26th is when the Fresh Starts begins currently. I don't think it'll get postponed any further than that. There hasn't been any new information, so I'm assuming Jagex is very happy with the overall polish of what they want it to be now, and I think they feel like it's more balanced with the current player base. We won't get too much into that stuff though, because we want to talk about strategies of getting not only for new players, but maybe some existing players, and you're potentially a little bit worried about what to do, what not to do. And so we're going to go over that a little bit today. Now, the reason why I wanted to kind of really address this is because one of the things I have done is I have played hardcore accounts. This is actually my third one. The second one's still alive. It's just I wanted to start a new one. Between just wanting to, and then also we had the fresh start coming up here soon. So I kind of want to give myself a start into a brand new character to see how quickly I could level. This account is not that old. It's not quite a week old. I want to say, I think I started it, this past Sunday. I think that's when I started it, because I think I only had 2 of the daily tasks done, and then it was reset. So this is not that old of an account, and I'll bring this here for you. As you can see, quite a bit of the stats are actually pretty good already. I mean, we have attack of 30, strength of 30, defense of 37, range 19, prayers 34, magic is 36, 37 rune crafting, 25 construction, 41 dungeoneering, 22 archaeology, 36 constitution, 29 agility, 25 herb lore, 38 thieving, 31 crafting, 16 fletching. I hate fletching. 21 slayer, a 22 hunter, 23 divination, 48 mining, 33 smithing, 41 fishing, 39 cooking, 34 fire making, and 39 wood cutting, 8 farming, 5 summoning, and I did not unlock invention yet, of course. Invention's a little bit harder to kind of get going especially when you're playing hardcore. So this is part of the reason why I wanted to do this video, is because I am starting a brand new account and I am starting at hardcore. So what does this mean? Well, the reason why the hardcore accounts, or just Iron Man in general, are really good for this is a designation for the fresh start is, number one, there's no economy, there's no items currently going to be in that those servers, which means money is going to be very low, because nobody's going to have any money, nobody is going to have any items, you know, there's nothing. It's a fresh start. So we're going to see a lot of potential slow beginnings, if you will. That's why I like to take the hardcore route when it comes to this. And I even say hardcore route because, let's face it, if you are playing the game and you are dying a lot, you are wasting time by, well, simply dying in the game, because not only do you either have to pay for the items you have currently just lost from death, you either have to do that or you have to go back to your gravestone to claim your items back. Either way, you are wasting time. That is time that could have been used and spent, you know, going about skilling, Slayer, you know, whatever floats your boat, really. So that's why I really look at a hardcore account as being the best way to look at a fresh start. The only benefit is, if you do make a mistake and you die, it's not as big of a deal. And then also, if you are new to the game, if you die, obviously you are new to the game, you are not expected to play overly well knowing of what to expect when you go to this and that kind of a quest. So now for more of the kind of tips and tricks into things to remember as you're doing it. I don't know if the daily and weekly challenges are going to be a thing or not. That I don't know. I'm assuming they will be, because people should get used to that. So as soon as you start your account and you get into it, try to make sure you get this started immediately, as soon as you possibly can. Because number one, that's a lot of XP you're missing out on. And number two, if they have the weekly reward chests, then, I mean, obviously you can get some really good items. Now, the hardcore versions of this, you don't really get much of anything but oddments, which is fine. I'm not complaining about that. It's just, that's essentially what you're going to get. You're going to get that, and you're going to get your XP from turning in your dailies. Which, for an Iron Man account, fantastic. The other thing I want to really bring to the forefront is look into what is called the D&D for RS3, which is Distractions and Diversions. You want to make sure you do these. Now, there is dailies, weeklies, and monthlies. You want to make sure you get all dailies done. I don't think there's too many real actual dailies that fall into this category, other than you want to make sure you get the Wicked Hood, which is not in this list. You want to get stuff like the Wicked Hood. This way you can get started rune crafting right away, because it already comes preloaded with the Air and Mind Talisman. You're going to want air runes to start out anyway, so it is one of the best ways to go about that. You definitely want to hit those up, and you definitely want to hit up your weeklies and monthlies. Now, one thing when it comes to the weeklies and the monthlies is do them towards the end of the week or the end of the month. Reason being is because if you do your weekly at the beginning of the week, let's say you have a lot of time to play that week, you get all that extra XP. Let's say you train a skill and that weekly would have actually really helped that skill. You know, after the week. So let's say, for example, you had what's one of them? Let's say circus. Okay, so let's go for the circus. Let's say you did a lot of Slayer that week, so you got a lot of range and magic XP that week. The problem with that is then at the end of that week, when you go to do that, and let's say you got a few levels into both range and magic, you are now getting less XP turnout because you did it in the beginning of the week. So wait until the end of the week, unless this is something that's going to impact you drastically, and you need that XP right there and then. That is more understandable, but otherwise try to hold on to those until the end of the week or the end of the month. For example, for the end of the month, it would be Troll Invasion. The more XP you get, the higher your total level, the higher the XP rates are that you will get. Total level doesn't matter too much into that, but your level in that skill that you put it in for does. Another one is going to be the Giant Oyster, which that does not really affect your XP at all, but you might get some good items from it, because there is some trimmed items that go into it that are really good. For instance, if you are playing through this, there's not going to be a whole lot of Amulet of Furies beginning with. Let's say you get up to the point where you start getting hard clue scroll rewards from the Oyster, then you would be able to get, you know, something substantially better than potentially, you know, maybe easy clue scroll rewards. And since it's not very XP related, other than, you know, the farming aspect of it and the fishing aspect of it to get the items to be able to feed to the Oyster, if you want to do it that way, just make sure you don't claim until the end of the month. The reason why I even potentially understand that one is because farming is not the easiest to do in the very beginning. A lot of seeds are based around combat. I've gotten more seeds around combat than anything else. I know thieving, eventually you can get seeds from thieving, but it takes, I think, level 41 thieving to pickpocket from the master farmers. So farming's kind of one that's going to sit on the back burner for a little bit, as you can see here with mine. It's kind of sitting in on the back burner a little bit. I haven't gone to the Oyster yet because I want to make sure I get the most amount of XP I possibly can from the Oyster at the end of the month. So that's something I'm going to wait until the end of the month. So it's just important to remember to try to hold out as long as you can, unless you absolutely need the XP, essentially. So you want to make sure you do your dailies, your monthlies, and your weeklies during this event, because that's going to get you a lot of XP and a lot of rewards. Another big one is to make sure you do Anacronia. Now, why is this one a big deal? Well, Anacronia has a lot of perks, and if you are able to start training on Anacronia before the end of the event, there's some pretty good areas to be able to do some training there, such as the agility course that is there. Also, it is an extremely good hunter method at the very high levels. So, it's very good XP, very decent rewards. I say decent because there is some extremely good rewards, but then there's some really meh kind of rewards. But that goes with anything, really, when you think about it. But you also have your base camp, which the base camp can help you out dramatically. Also, if you get it to at least the point where you have your bank there, and if you have the lodestone unlocked, that is a good way to be able to get to the Herbie Werby minigame. Because that minigame is fantastic, especially for herb lore. Do not bother with the fire making part of it. And for those who are unsure what I mean by herb lore and fire making part of it, if you see as like I might pick up a green one, and it's going to take that green herb to the fire and burn the green herb, if you stop them, you will get herb lore XP. And if you see them pick up a purple herb and try to go to burn that, if you were to stop them, you would get fire making XP and you'd be able to burn it. The fire making one is a lot faster, but the herb lore one is a lot more rewarding because it is much easier to train fire making than herb lore. I can train fire making till my heart's content because I have a high level fire making in this right now, and my herb lore is about 10 levels behind it. But that's also because I had a weekly token, so I used that weekly token for that. And I'm very happy about that. So it's very, very worthwhile doing. Yeah, pay attention to your distractions and diversions like those two, because they are going to be your best friend. Pay attention to the circus, Herbie Werby. I think those are the primary two I can say, and there's also for the monthlies, you got the Giant Oyster, you got the Troll Invasion, and you have, I just thought of it, yes, I said the Oyster, Herbie Werby, oh, and the construction pyramids, well, the sculpting, if you will. Those are very much near a lot of lodestones, including Lumbridge, Taverley, Canvas, and Yaneel. And speaking of places like Yaneel, another great thing to do is to try to get a lot of your lodestones unlocked as soon as possible, because this is going to be how you kind of implement and run around very easily. And for those who are kind of curious at how I got over here so easily, I just went to Port Sarim after I had, I think, 60 gold. And then I went from Port Sarim to Karamja, from Karamja to Brimhaven, took the Brimhaven boat, went up to Ardone, and then that's how I got all that. Otherwise, I was over here at level 3, no problem. And that is the way to do that, is you go that route, because there's, other than the one scorpion, you're really not going to have an issue. I think maybe one scorpion, maybe two. So you can, much easier to avoid them in a very big wide open area versus the wolves that are all over the place and there's wolves that are still higher level than I currently am. At the top, highest part of it, but I don't go up there yet because obviously I think it's higher level than me right now. So it's just like, let's wait on that. Those are some key things to worry about and some key things to think about. Also, when you're doing this, this is going to sound really, really weird to some people. Try to have a skilling method down of how you want to train all your skills. Now, this is mostly for people who are trying to do the competition themselves. If you're trying to do the competition, you're going to have a lot of people who are going to be hitting this and hitting this hard. So, I have 2 training methods I would recommend for both Ironman player, or hardcore Ironman players especially, and also for this, is you can do what I consider to be the Dungeoneering method. You just go to Dungeoneering, you get your ring, you go in there, and you just do every single node you can in there. There's only, I think, 2 skills that you can't do in there, and that is Archeology and Invention. Everything else can be done in there currently, so I don't think there's too much construction, but we have those pillars for that. But so that's going to be a big thing, is getting those done. Another thing is, so that's the one method. The other method is, if I'm not doing that kind of stuff, I have a very set, strict guideline for how I do my skills. I start with mining. I go into smithing. And I'll tell you guys why I do it this way after it's all done. Well, as I go through. Forget about that. But I do mining and smithing so I can produce my melee gear and potentially some arrows if need be. Now, you already know I said about getting the Wicked Hood right away. You still want to get the Wicked Hood. That's going to help you with your rune crafting and getting you runes early on to help you out with your magic. So that's something that's kind of separate. That's your D&D, distractions and diversions. Then I go into fishing and cooking. So when I go into fishing and cooking, the reason is being because you need food to heal yourself when you are in combat, or some skilling activities might be able to hurt you. It's not too many, but there is a little bit of that. So obviously, good way to do that. Make sure you have fishing and cooking going. And then I just keep following that list. I go into fire making and wood cutting. Obviously, one complements the other, so just keep doing that. Farming and summoning, those don't really tie together at all. But if I have the seeds for it, I try to do farming. Once I get to, I think it's level 17, where you can start doing the player-owned farm, I will kind of be sitting on that idly until we get into the biggest chunk of the event, where you get the most amount of XP from it. Because, well, I mean, think about it. You'd be able, yeah, level 17, you'd be able to go ahead and get your pets, well, the animals that you're raising there, to be giving you basically a passive XP just by checking on them. But whenever we start getting into the double, triple, etc., types of XP, this is a skill to hit up during that time. But that's one thing. Summoning is one of those that you definitely want to hit at the very peak of whatever XP rate that we are going to be getting. The very peak of it. Summoning is a very costly thing to do. You basically, when you first start, you want to be doing that kind of as little as possible. I'd have to say you'd want to be doing it during whenever you do any kind of dungeoneering. Definitely any kind of dungeoneering, make sure you are doing summoning when you are doing it, because that'll help out dramatically. Make sure you do it for your dailies. Do not run from it on your dailies. Do it for a daily especially, because that's not only doing it for a daily and then getting a little bit of getting the XP for doing the task, it's also getting you a ton of XP when you cash that in. Any kind of combat, do not worry about it right now. So we're going to be well, once I get down to here, and if I have invention locked, of course, that's when I go through and I start disassembling any kind of gear. Well, not necessarily gear, because that'd be siphoning. But that's when I start disassembling items that I do not want, and then creating anything I need, kind of playing catch up with that essentially. Then from whatever we go from invention, I go up to attack, strength, defense, ranged, prayer, mage. I skip all those for now. I will tell you the why in a little bit. Once we get into Slayer, that'll cover that. Then we go into rune crafting. So rune crafting between the Wicked Hood and rune span, those are the primary ways I do this. Now you can start doing the abyssal training a lot sooner than it used to be, because there's not going to be a whole lot of action going on towards the abyss because, well, PvP changed. So there's not going to be a whole lot of action going on there. However, I still personally just encourage people to do the Wicked Hood and to do rune span, because I feel like rune span is a very fast XP, especially as you get to higher and higher levels. After all, I am level 37 in it, and all I did was I primarily worked my way up to level 20. Since then, it has only been dailies, because I have not gotten back to that rotation yet. It's been dailies and the Wicked Hood. That is how I've been getting most of my XP. Construction. Construction is a hard one. So, construction, there is two ways to do it early game. Number one, you're going to be wanting to do your, the construction pillars, as I call them, which you want to go, well, let's get the exact name of this, because I don't want to just be telling you, God statues. So you want to make sure you do your God statues one as much as possible, because that is going to get you a ton of not only wood cutting XP, but either prayer or slayer XP. Personally, I recommend prayer. You want to get Slayer XP that way? Perfectly fine, perfectly understandable. That is going to be one of the few ways you can get that kind of XP without going and doing combat itself. Personally, though, I encourage doing combat. But between the God statues, eventually when you start getting a bunch of planks, you can start doing the contracts. Contracts are very good for getting XP, but then there's also one more, which is the shifting tombs. So once you get access to Menethos, you can go into the shifting tombs and start getting construction XP that way, which is really, really good. I actually recommend doing that way for anybody who's having a hard time making money. So to me, I would encourage people to do that quite heavily. Anyone who is an Iron Man, even after all, like, everything, I would still say for Iron Man, best way to make construction XP. And potentially make money on the side. Depends on how you have to set up. Dungeoneering. Dungeoneering is very easy. Go in, try to do as many nodes as possible that are closest to the levels that you have. So if you're doing mining, if you're doing Navite, but you're level 20, you're wasting your XP, you're wasting your time. Because when you go into here, I think what Bathos is 10. So even if you're doing Bathos at level 20, that you're still wasting your time. You want to be doing Marmaros. And if you're like, well, I'm just going to get a little bit of Navite ore for summoning and Bathos for summoning, that's fine. That makes sense. But you don't want to be doing Navite at level 20 or 30 and be getting a low amount of XP, because you do kind of want to go through there kind of quickly. You don't want to go too slow, but you don't want to go too fast, or else you're just, it can make it kind of harder than it has to be. But Dungeoneering is going to be a great skill for anybody who's looking for an easy way to get XP. You can easily go in there and actually just be a purely Dungeoneering kind of person and pretty much hit almost every single skill. You won't hit every single quest, or any quest, if you stay in there, but you will get a lot of XP that way. Also, the rewards are pretty fantastic whenever you start getting into higher and higher levels, especially, then the rewards get really, really good, really, really worth it. Archeology, this is one that goes, this actually goes for RuneSpan too. I forgot to mention this. RuneSpan, farming, summoning, and archaeology are probably going to be my top 4 recommended to wait for the big XP boosts. Obviously, you don't want to wait completely because obviously you're going to be wanting to get some XP as you're going through, so you can do some quests. Because different quests, you get different rewards and different unlocks, and you want to get those unlocks. But archaeology is pretty good, especially at low levels or even high levels. Even if you skip through a lot of levels and you're really pushing through all the bonus XP you get into that, I can understand doing that. But kind of keep it in line as much as you can with your other skills. Like, try to raise it a little bit at least to the point too where you can get at least 1 relic going, because any kind of boost you can get is going to be fantastic. Then we get into Constitution. Constitution is just like the rest of the combat skills. Do not worry about it, because Slayer will be taking care of that. Agility is kind of a pain, and I would say this is going to be part of the top 4. But agility is also not that hard to train. It's just kind of boring. And that's the problem. But once you get up to the higher and higher levels, it becomes very, very easy. More and more things have it incorporated. And if you get into the Dino, or the Anacronia agility course, it becomes very easy. Herblore is kind of hard in the beginning because you have to worry about all these other things. While getting all the supplies, and again, treat this like Iron Man, because there's not going to be a ton of supplies out there, and they might be overly expensive, they might be overly cheap. It's very hard depending upon the economy for a new world. So, Herblore is going to be kind of hard to do, but if you are doing Herby Werby, you should be okay to the point of where you're getting up there in levels. And I should recommend for people too, if you are doing Herby Werby, make sure you are buying the seedlings to teleport you there with the seeds, because this way you don't have to waste all that time trying to get up to that location each week. Because that's pretty time consuming, even if you do go from the base camp at Anacronia to walk around. If you don't have the agility for the shortcuts, it can take quite a bit of time. And now we head into thieving. Thieving is one you have to be very, very careful with, because thieving is great. It's very easy XP. Personally, I love the skill, but there is a lot of stuff to do, and a lot of things don't give you the XP you might think. For example, I recently was going about doing thieving with the stalls in Lumbridge. I kept swapping back and forth between the one stall and another stall, and then I unlocked some other ones. I was like, well, these are higher level, I'm going to go get those. I went and did that, and I was getting less XP than the lower level one. I think the lower level one was giving me 16 XP per theft, and I think it was the seed stall was giving me 10, which was higher level than the other one. So guess what I did? I went right back to the lower level one, because if I'm getting more XP that way, I'm going to do that way. But also for thieving, make sure you try to get Pyramid Plunder as soon as possible. So that means you'll need to do Ictharlin's Little Helper, which means you need to do Gertrude's Cat. And it also means you need to do... there's another quest you got to do. Oh, there's 2 more quests you have to do, which is like a Diamond and a Rough, and you have to do those because you have to even be able to get that quest line even started to go there. So very important quest lines to do. I highly recommend it because you can get some pretty good rewards through that, and very good thieving XP. Probably the best thieving XP you can get up until you get into the safe cracking, because if you get good at safe cracking, that is a lot of XP too. Also, you can make a lot of money from safe cracking. For thieving anyway, not necessarily compared to some other skills. Then we go into crafting. Crafting kind of is one of those skills that takes care of itself. Between you doing mining and smithing, that means you are going to be getting a bunch of geodes. The geodes will help you get all the gems you need. So that's a big thing. And then you have your dailies. That's going to help out because obviously boost of XP is always good. And then as you're doing combat, especially early on, people are going to be killing a lot of cows. And if you're killing a lot of cows, you're getting a lot of hide. You're getting a lot of leather. You can also do it to the point of where you start shearing a lot of sheep and then spinning wool and trying to make stuff that way, which is very possible. You also have the spiders, which you can make the spider silk robes eventually. So crafting is one, like I said, it kind of takes care of itself, but you want to train that next, you know, after thieving. Fletching, I hate fletching with a fiery passion, but it is still very easy to train. I primarily encourage people to do fletching right alongside dungeoneering, especially if you are getting your highest 1 to 2 trees that you can possibly get, because that'll give you your best XP ratios. And then we get into Slayer. Slayer is fantastic. Did I ever say that? It's going to be your best friend in this, especially for all of the skills in the game, well, all the combat skills, and quite a lot of the other skills too, because that's where I get a lot of seeds for farming, and that's where you'll get a lot of supplies for herb lore, and you'll get a lot of bones for your prayer, which I know is kind of technically combat, but it's also not combat. But Slayer is fantastic. It's great rewards. Hunter, I know it's kind of hard in the beginning, but stick with the different types of birds because they're very easy to catch. That's my personal experience. I find them very easy to catch, very quick to catch, but eventually Big Chinchompa would be very helpful. Make sure you hit up Big Chinchompa. And then also, whenever you get to even higher levels, you can start doing Anacronia, and you can start dinosaur hunting, which is a ton of XP. A ton. And then Divination, you kind of want to do Divination because you want to make sure you can try to get to Invention. This is actually one I did forget the top 4 that I said. This is another one that would be great for whenever the XP rates are higher than normal. Another skill that is optimized for that time frame would be that, because that is right aligned with how slow it is to naturally raise rune crafting, but there's a lot of ways to assist rune crafting. There's not really any ways to assist divination, so try to get that out. Just take it slow. You don't have to rush any of these, and for each one of these, I will say I try to hit level 20 at least in every single one of these skills before I go into the next one. Now, if it's a production skill and it's below level 20, but the gathering aspect of the skill, for instance, let's say mining and smithing, if mining was actually higher than 20 and smithing was still like 18, 19, I'm just going to take the hit and let it be like that, because I don't want to have to keep, you know, going back and forth trying to completely balance it out. It's not the best way to do it, so keep that in mind. Yeah, I think that's all my tips and tricks is your dailies, weeklies, monthlies, your distractions and diversions. Make sure you get all those. If you are unsure of anything, feel free to ask me or other players as well. We would all be happy to help out, whether you're a new player, older player, returning player, etc., etc. I'm happy to answer any questions, and if you have a very strict question that you have to ask, still feel free to ask it. It's just whenever you guys ask questions, if I don't know the answer offhand, or if I only partially know the answer, I will make sure I look into it to try to find everything I possibly can, because obviously all my skilling methods are not going to necessarily always be the best skilling methods. Not to mention, what works for me might not work for somebody else. this style has worked very great for me. And as for my stats show, it has actually worked very great for me. That'll do it for this video. If you guys have any tips and tricks for other players or new players, please post them down below and let's see what happens. Honestly, I want to see a new player brand new to RuneScape win the competition. I really want to see that. Am I going to, you know, put my foot out there and try to get into the competition? Sure. I want to do that. It's fun. But I'm going to try to help people along the way, including you guys. I want to help you guys too. If there's anything I can do while we're all playing it, please just let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, later guys.